bringing in a new system, sometimes people are going to be very apprehensive about how they work with it. So for me, it was like, well, this is the system now. This is how the company's running. So if you want to work with us, you have to adhere to this system. But people were so stuck in a certain way that they didn't want to change. And it was literally an ultimatum. And there was people that had been there for like 15 years working with the business, and like they had to go.
Welcome to Seven Figures, a podcast where we talk about financial literacy, generating wealth, and how to build a seven-figure business from people that have actually done it. Today is a great episode for me because growing up in North London, Wood Green, there was a shop that was a staple in the community. You know, it was a heritage business, Uncle John's Bakery, and for many years it's thrived in the same spot, and it's grown and it's expanded. Today it's been a pleasure to be able to get the current director of Uncle John's Bakery, Samuel Mensah, to sit here and tell us about the bakery industry, how the business was built and how the business expanded to all different areas. You now supply to Morrison's, Tesco's, and all different elements from such a small, humble beginning. So, bro, it's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming, man. Appreciate you coming. I wanna start from the beginning, you know what I mean? Now, because Uncle John's been around for a minute, like everyone knows, you know. But obviously, we know it was founded by the legendary Uncle John, who's your father.
Yeah.
Before we go into him founding the business, I want to talk about what was your childhood like growing up in an environment like this? What was your relationship with entrepreneurship?
I think for me, it was like when I was a child, it was more to do with just exploring. I just liked exploring. Like I liked, you know, getting involved in different things, fixing stuff. And I think for me, those are kind of key fundamental skills that you learn when you're younger in terms of building something. And, you know, seeing my parents do the business, and, you know, my mum was very, very instrumental into how the business has grown today. And, you know, she was behind my dad a lot in terms of, you know, facilitating, bringing in new ideas and giving him the push that he needed to you know, facilitate the business moving forward. But yeah, you know, it's I think you see it, but it's also in your subconscious. Because when I was younger, to be honest, because I'd grown with it, I didn't really it wasn't really my direction.
Yeah, because your parents singing it, it's just there. Yeah.
Like I had my own goals, I had my own vision in terms of how I want to live life, what I want to do, and but things change.
Life changes. I hear that. You're talking about like your mother Amelia, right? That's Amelia, and so she was an instrumental woman in the bakery becoming what it is. But there's also another instrumental figure. That's Nana Mary, right? Was that your mum's mother or your dad's mum?
It's both actually.
Okay.
So the recipe for sweetbread came from my dad's mum, and the recipe for like the buffalo, the donuts, the cakes, the pies came from my mum's mum.
Oh.
So it all integrated, and then, you know, it was refined over time, and yeah.
Well, so in that aspect, you said like you saw this going on. You know, obviously, did you work in a shop when you were younger than that?
No, I didn't.
Never.
No, I didn't. Do you know what? For me, when I got to like college or university, I wanted to work outside of it because I wanted to experience what it was like working outside and see how things worked. I didn't want to just go down the route of, let me just step into the business and do that. For me, I don't know. I think for me, I didn't really find it cool as well.
What? Because what, the man then would be like, you're running the...
Yeah, like I don't know. I didn't really see it as something that was cool to me. So, like when I was younger, I was really heavily involved in music.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. My thing was entertainment. My thing was creativity. So that's what I was heavily involved in, and sports as well was something that I was part of. But yeah, I just kind of just saw it as like you were saying, that's my parents' thing. Like it's not really something that I want to get involved in or take on or anything like that. But yeah, man, the journey's been interesting. It's changed over time. My mindset's changed over time, and my purpose has changed over time as well.
Yeah. I see that. I kind of understand what you mean. It's kind of like we take the things around us for granted. Like even at a young age, it took me a lot older to be able to appreciate that. This is actually a business. You know, before it's just a bakery. My mum will send me there. You know, my aunts will send me there. But then you're like, this is kind of popping. It's thriving. Do you get what I'm saying? you were going down the music route. Let's talk about your time as Exploder, right? That was your artist.
Yeah.
Let's talk about where, like, I want to know mainly, like, obviously I'm trying to think about it from my perspective. I built this business, it's thriving, and my son says he wants to go and do music. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about your time as a musician, how your parents were about that, and when the transition started happening.
I mean, my parents are Ghanaian, so everything was school. Like, do your school, finish your studies, like, get onto that. But it's like, when I was growing up, I was really good at athletics as well.
Okay.
So I had a chance to. I was training with Great Britain. I was doing lots of different races, 100 meters.
Oh, seriously, a sprinter?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So.
What was your era? Was that like Dwayne Chambers and them?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
serious?
So I used to train with him at Finsbury Park. Used to go there. Mark Lewis Francis as well.
Oh, serious? They're heavyweights, yeah.
But again, I think when I was young, I didn't really take it as seriously. I used to even like laugh in my races and stuff. Like, I didn't really take it as seriously, but people that I went to school with, people that knew me, knew like I could have taken it to that level if I wanted to.
So are you one of them guys?
Yeah. you know, it's like the football.
Yeah, that was. I could have made it.
but yeah, I think I think for me it was just the experience of it, and music was always something that was part of the family. Music's always been, I think, any kind of, black family, just music is just there from childhood. Whether it's being gospel music, whether it's jazz music, whether it's hip life, high life. Do you know what I mean? It's always embedded. So I always liked music. So when I got involved in it, that was in the era where garage was transitioning into grime, pirate radio.
Yeah.
So pastime was going to radio stations.
Which radio?
So there was Mystic FM.
I don't know.
That was a station in East London. Where else was there? Like, sometimes we'd go and guest on like Deja.
Yeah, okay, Deja was a popping one. Yeah, everyone knew Deja.
FM.
Yeah.
And this was the era of like Wretch and Chip and Tiny and Aftershock.
Yeah,
and my brother also, he's in music as well, and he still does music now. And
yeah, D-Dog. Yeah.
He's heavily involved in it.
Cold.
So it's always been
D-Dog was in Aftershock, was he not?
Yeah.
It was Tiny, yes, I remember now, and Bruiser and all them. Yes, I remember, yeah.
So, I think just the journey through music was, for me, it was like, I had a vision. I was in a group at the time. We had a group called Highly Rated, which was like myself, a couple of friends from school, other people that we knew as well. And it was just like wanting to just take it to the next level, do it properly. And that's always been my mindset. So anyone that knows me knows that when I get involved in something, I want to make sure I do it full and proper. So the group kind of like broke up and stuff like that, and I just wanted to continue doing music because I was just passionate about it. So I got to the point where I made my own like mixtape, started doing events, went to different countries, released stuff, performed for Mobos, did stuff for BBC Radio 1, festivals and stuff. So it was an interesting journey, like, just to see how the perseverance and the tenacity of being an artist and how you're in control of what you do, how far you can take it. So at that time, I was in uni. At that time, I was also one foot in, one foot out with my parents in the business, because I used to come and help.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I was like probably about 19, 20, I was working in Phones for You.
Oh, so rather than work for your dad, you went to work?
Yeah, because do you know what? For me, it was I wanted to gain the experience of like working outside.
Yeah.
Because to me, even though my parents had a business there, not that I didn't view it as like a corporate kind of business, but I didn't see it as like there was like certain rules and regulations you have to abide to and structure, and do you know what I mean? So for me, I wanted just to kind of see what it was like, and it was sales, so it was literally sell as much as you can and you can just chill. It wasn't really that difficult, but I learned a lot from that in terms of system building, in terms of structure, and how businesses work in a corporate way.
Yeah.
So when I made the decision to kind of step in with my parents and stuff like that, there was lots of things that I was seeing that they need to do and change, and that's when the resistance started a bit.
I hear that. We had another guest on here, Omar, and he owns the restaurant in Camden, Guanabana.
Okay.
But he initially started working with his dad because his dad owned a restaurant before that, and he was like, the moment he was trying to innovate and be like, let's change the menu, let's do this. It was like, I mean, they had beef. Like he said, there was a time where they almost stopped talking.
Yeah, it gets like that.
Serious.
It gets like that. It's like family business is like me being totally transparent from the outside. It's great, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done internally in order for it to work the way that it needs to work. And even for where we've got to today with the business, there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of like mini arguments here and there, and I think if you want the greater good of what you're getting involved in, you have to look past it all.
Yeah.
But the hardest thing is doing it with family, because it's more than just it being, oh, you're just a business partner or anything. There is invested interest. We are blood. So if it's sour, I'm gonna see you when we're eating jollof rice. Like,
in the evening. Yeah, your mom's
what I
cooking.
mean?
Yeah.
So you have to try and differentiate it. But I think that's the hardest part, because especially in the African culture, there's that respect, and sometimes when you're the younger one, when you're speaking up on certain things and telling them this is wrong or change that because that doesn't work, they're like, who
especially with Ghanaians, like, who do you think he's talking to?
Exactly. So it was hard, man. It was a hard transition, but I think for me, it was the actions spoke much louder than the words. I'm not someone that speaks too much, but I always try and showcase through the actions, and throughout time, we're here today.
Dope. So I want to talk about this transition period, because I want to get onto the idea of you, like, because I really want to know what innovations you put in place. But I want to talk about, as an artist and being an artist myself, there's always this kind of like very hardened mentality that it's like, I'm not leaving this, I'm not quitting, like no one's gonna say that to me. How did you overcome, and what do you remember the specific point where it was like, I'm going to go and help with the business?
Yeah, I do. It was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. It was more down to purpose, and for me it was also down to how I view the rest of my life and how I view the journey. And for me, it was kind of like I had almost like an epiphany, like, this is much bigger than you. So I can want to do music all I like to a certain capacity, but there's going to be a point where it stops.
Yeah, it's like sports, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a point, yeah.
But with business and with ownership and with legacy, that doesn't stop. So, and also when I had my daughter as well, it was like, what is her vision going to be of me when she's older, when she's 18, when she's ready to work, or when she sees what an example of a black man is in society, of how they operate and how they move. So I had all of these things just juggling in my head, and it was a tough decision. And at the time we were just transitioning from, so I was involved in the business, and we were in Tesco's at this point. So even when we was in Tesco's, I wasn't fully involved, but I'd helped orchestrate things and got it in place. And then we brought on like a business development manager. She came on and she came with some ideas as well. And we went back and forth, and like she was really good at the time as well. And for me, it was like, she always said to me, like, if anyone's going to take this forward, it's going to be you. But she said it in a way that it made me feel and think like, well, if you're telling me that I can do that, then maybe it's true.
Yeah.
And I think everything happens for a reason. So yeah, it's the journey. I realized it was much more bigger than myself. I couldn't really just think of myself anymore. I had to think about what the offering of the business was, what potentially it can be, and what it also means to a community, because the narrative of music and sports and entertainment is always pushed so much. And being in it and experiencing it is cool, but at the same time, we sometimes tend to complain as a community, like, why are we not seeing something else? Why is there not another avenue? But there's so many black entrepreneurs that we don't get to see,
real talk,
that do business and do it to a very high scale, but we don't see them as examples because that's not a narrative that is really pushed. So I knew that coming from a background of music and understanding also how media works, how to start integrating that and really showcasing that, and also just trying to be, I wouldn't say a role model, but, showing how things can be done and should be done and what it means to have ownership. Yeah.
Real talk. I think what you're saying, I remember listening to one podcast and the guy was like, there's LeBron James, but there's only one LeBron James in it. He goes, I believe that through business, my son can accumulate as much wealth as LeBron James. You get what I'm saying? There's nothing that stops him because there's not only one businessman. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think sometimes our perception of success is kind of like pigeonholed, and it's like even though, like you said, there's people outside that who are making, who, if you're talking about wealth, who would be just as successful, you know?
Yeah, and I always say that, like, when it comes to success, and I talk to my friends about this all the time, like, success is a case of perspective. Like, we always talk about, like, what does success mean to me? And for me, it's acquiring time. Because time is something that you can never get back. So if you're able to Facilitate a life where you are able to be in control of your time, to me, that's success.
Real talk.
And when you have, like, you've got children or you've got family or you want to explore, you need time for that. So, you know, you can work 9 to 5, and 9 to 5, there's nothing wrong with it. But again, there's a lot of your time is taken. But with business, sometimes in the beginning, a lot of your time needs to go into it. But over the long period of time, you kind of get that back a bit.
Yeah, once the processes come in place and you hire the right people. Speaking of people, so this business director, like, who was she? What was your relationship with?
So so basically, she used to work for a company that used to do exhibitions. So she approached us and she was like, oh, like, you know, you'd be good to go in this exhibition. And I was like, yeah, that's something we was thinking about doing.
What kind of exhibition?
Food exhibitions.
Okay, yeah.
So it was like, it was called, at the time, I think it was called Hotel Olympia. And you go there and there's so many different businesses that are there that display what products they do and everything like that. You get buyers that come in, you get different hotels, you get restaurants, all come and see what businesses are on display.
Yeah.
And it was there was a gap in the market for West African products.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like, especially in the African community, we don't tend to put ourselves on these platforms to expose to that demographic.
Do you think that's because of awareness or reluctance?
A bit of both.
Okay.
A bit of both. But I think more also awareness. So, you know, it was literally a plunge in the ocean to go and display our stuff and go out there. But what I realized over time is that people are no longer just buying into just companies. They're buying into people. They're buying into experience. They're buying into stories. And I knew that with the culture and heritage that we have, people will be interested. But match that with quality and consistency, you've got a place in the market. So it was a no-brainer to start being on those kind of platforms. And you know, us going into Tesco's, they approached us. So it was not like we was even searching for it. So it just made me kind of think that there is a much more bigger picture to the business than, you know, being on West Green Road as what you know it as, and taking it from there. So yeah, she came on board and, you know, shared a lot of ideas, and she actually ended up leaving where the company she was to come and work with us.
Oh, dope.
And she was with us for probably just about a year and a half. She was with us for a year.
Is this a white lady, black lady?
No, black
African?
lady, Ghanaian.
Oh, Ghanaian.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so she saw,
yeah. So she saw the vision, and yeah, like, I think there was a lot of stuff that we spoke about, and I learned from her also, that I think, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today also without her knowledge also. So I always acknowledge that. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey, and the journey's still going. It's still growing, and for me, I didn't study business, or I didn't.
You studied media technology, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I think business a lot of the time is based on just facts and figures. So when you apply that with your common sense,
you don't talk. Common sense is a big thing. People overlook common sense.
Yeah, it's true.
People overlook common. Yeah,
it's true. So you just have to just try and really home in on that and focus on that. There's so many other different things that people think about and think matters a lot with business, but it doesn't actually matter. Like, just focus on that and focus on your customer base, focus on the audience that you have, and that will grow with time, organically. And that's something that's happened with the business over the years, because we've been running for 25 years now, so this is our 25th year. But it's been probably the most changing year since the business has been open. Yeah, the past probably 4 years. I'm only saying that because I've been in it.
Yeah. Man's been getting busy.
But no, I'm joking. No, but it's been a journey. It's been a journey, and I think I've grown, and I've matured a lot through understanding how business works and how people work and how to engage and how to network and all these kind of things. These all key skills that I've learned along the way and taken with me through it being me being in music or me being in sports and knowing how to function with a team, and stuff like that. So all of that is all, you know, it's almost like it's God's plan. It's all placed in a certain way. Yeah.
I want to talk about you first stepping into the business like this. Then, what was the first? Because obviously now you, I'm sure you migrated gradually into your role. What was the first thing you saw was like? Because I think modernizing and innovating a business is something a lot of people haven't been are not aware of. You know what I mean? They think a business just works and it sustains itself, but times are changing. The internet's coming around. What was the first thing that you were like, we need to change this? And when your dad, like, where was the biggest friction? You know what I mean?
Do you know what? When I came in, so it's been like about 5 to 6 years now. It was literally scrap everything.
Really?
Yeah.
But the business is working though. Are you gonna scrap everything?
That's what it looked like on the outside.
Oh, okay.
There was a few struggles and stuff, and it was getting to a point of where can we still operate it
like that?
Yeah.
You never know these things.
No, you don't know.
Never know these things.
You don't know. So you know, when I jumped in, one of the first thing was branding. We need to make sure branding goes across all the products that we have, and make sure that's solidified. So I went away, worked with a company that does creative direction, and
because before it was just a plastic bag, and the storefront you changed all that. Yeah,
everything. So it was literally, the process was, let's change the branding. So the branding was changed. So from it being the website to it being the logo to it being how the text read on the products, what people knew about the products, what people knew about the story, what people knew about us. So all of that came in. Then there was a next stage, which was, where we are currently, are we in a position for growth? So we used to have the shop, right next to the shop was where we baked. And that wasn't really a suitable area for, you know, to have dispatch going from there, because we also deliver to shops around London and stuff.
Yeah. What do you mean it wasn't suitable?
The space wasn't. It was like it's a retail space more than it being a commercial warehouse kind of space.
Oh, you used to cook at the back. Is that what?
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
Okay. Oh.
And you know, you would have the shop, and then you would have the workers at the back, and it's a very dense environment. And you know, you also have to think of the staff that you have as well, like providing them with a better workplace. You get the best out of them.
Yeah.
So the next stage was getting 2 factories. So went away, found a space, and then got 2 production units.
What, to bake your products?
Yeah. So now at the moment, the shop that you may know of is still where it is, but we don't bake on site there. Everything is done in the factory.
Oh, I see.
So the factory is, compared to the shop, it's probably like 10 times the size of what you've seen what the shop is. Yeah. And we've got 2 of them that we operate from. So that was like a very big transition, because it was changing from a small local thing to now we're running it on a very bigger scale, and it was more about growth. But at the same time, I didn't know exactly what that growth would look like.
That's what I was going to say. Do you want to explain to people what you were thinking when you said growth?
So for me, it was like, okay, 1, getting into the supermarkets,
yeah,
and distributing amongst, you know, all of the majors, and then 2 was also getting our products in a lot of the local stores up and down the country, and 3 was branching out into Europe. So I knew that we had to be in a much bigger space to do that. And also, as a food business, you're going to be audited to a certain capacity.
Yeah.
So to have a certain accreditation in place, you have to have the right space, and they have to come in and they're going to assess it, and they're going to do checks and stuff like that. So all of those things were playing in my mind. So I knew that we had to be there. And even to set up, the space we went into was empty. So it was literally building it into a production unit, building an office, building a staff room, building a production unit, segregating off certain parts. So there's certain parts where you can't go into if you haven't got on your full uniform, down to the company's policies, writing that all up from scratch, making sure that the workers had employee handbooks, making sure that legally we were covered in terms of trademark, in terms of IP, making sure that the website, everything that was on there translates to what you see with the product, making sure that we've got traceability. So if there's anything wrong with any products, we'll be able to trace it back down to the worker that made it, the time he made it, what ingredients we got for that product, even if it was 2-3 weeks ago or a month ago, and have all of these systems in place. So it was I was literally learning as I went along.
Yeah, it's mad.
Yeah, so
I mean, people wouldn't know that it's operation like this. Like, we just see the bakery, you know, the bread, the buffalo, you know what I mean, little chin chin, but we didn't know there's like a mass operation going around.
We've never really shown the factory like that, to be honest. It's always been the shop. And a lot of people don't really know that we produce it on that kind of scale, because at the moment we do throughout the whole of the UK. We go as far as Edinburgh, we go as far as like Liverpool, Leeds, Leicester, Manchester, Southampton. We even do Europe now, which is like Belgium, France, Germany, Italy. So it's branched out quite a bit.
Yeah. I've seen it, bro. I was in a shop somewhere and I saw like you lot packaging like Uncle John's, and I was thinking, what's this doing in South London? You get what I'm saying? And that's when it started to like pique my interest to be like, this is a bigger operation. This is why I wanted to get behind it. Can we talk about like the whole kind of like finances of like, how did you manage? Did you get a loan? Did you get investment? Just because you were saying you was at a point where the business was looking shaky, and then it was like you had to make all this investment into it. How did that happen?
So we've never really pulled money from like VCs or anything like that. It's been internal money. So it's like we own the property of where the shop is. So even when we did the shop, we had two leases on each side of the shop that we had, and then actually owned the property of where the shop is. So the leases we gave back, and then we just concentrated on the shop. The shop was gutted out, and in the process of gutting it out, I was like, why don't we just remortgage the place? Just remortgage it, pull that capital out, and use that to reinvest back into the business.
Seriously, that's what you lot did. Yeah. That's quite a big risk, no?
Yeah.
Serious, and then so I didn't know that. Sorry, I'm thinking that's a big risk to remortgage the whole thing. That's serious hustle. And then so that's how you funded the factories. Yeah. And how did you have that conversation with the rest of the team and your dad and your mum?
Do you know what? It's to be honest, it's more my mum. Yeah. That she's like the one that is like the people that people don't see.
Yeah. You know how the game goes. Yeah. It's the women that keep us going, bro.
Yeah, she's been like the pillar, and she always knew and trusted that I have a vision to make things work. So it's almost like it was left to my devices to do so. Yeah. So even when it came down to actually owning the commercial property, it was up to me. It was to my discretion of what I want to do with it. Yeah. Because I actually own it. And I said, that's what we're gonna do, and that involved investing into machinery. And just also talking with our business account manager as well, for who we bank with, and discussing with the plans and exactly what we want to do with the money and how we can stretch the money, whether it be if we're going to go and do basically like loans, with getting the machinery and stuff like that. So there was a lot of conversations, but at the same time it made me understand how to stretch the money and how to make it work. It's a lot. There was a lot of investment that went into it.
Who gave you that sauce, bro? Where did you learn to be like, bro, that's a big move, you know what I mean? That's a big chess move, like.
But you know what? I think it's just from just looking at, just growing up, and you look at people like, obviously we grow up and we look more at the Americans. Yeah. So you look at people like 50, you look at people like Diddy, you look at people like
Jay and Dre and Dame and
you see the moves that they're making and how they're trying to pull. So I kind of use that kind of knowledge, and I like to read a bit from time to time, look at motivational speakers, and just pull information from so many different places. One of the biggest things that I learned is that without risk, there is going to be no reward.
Real talk, yes.
So, you have to sacrifice to a certain degree. And that sacrifice was me not having money for a certain period of time and stuff like that. But I just knew that if it works the way that it's going to work, then
you got an operation on your hands. Yeah.
So that's what it was.
So how did you start getting these relationships with all these shops? Where some of them were established before you built into factories, and did you grow from there? Like and I want to talk about how did Tesco approach you, and how does that conversation happen? Yeah,
so basically, like with a lot of the local shops that we're in, a lot of them they have the demographic of people that go into the shops anyway. So it's literally going to them, saying to them, look, we've got a basket of this, try it out in your shop, see how it goes, and go from there. And we've built long-term relationships with a lot of these customers now They may have started with one basket, they now have 10.
Oh, and then they just buy and sell. So they buy. Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
So that kind of approach was quite, I wouldn't say simple, but it's quite easier to do because it's literally cash on delivery. You go in, pay me, I'm out.
Yeah.
And the Tesco one was a whole different ball game because
Can I just just for people that are not from the UK, Tesco's like a major.
it's like Walmart.
Walmart.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, just so people know the levels. You know what I mean?
So it was there was another company called Euphorium, and they had a bakery project which was in partnership with Tesco. So they changed up Tesco's bakery section, and they wanted to introduce like world breads and bring in different kind of breads. But they had noticed that in the area that they wanted to introduce it in, we were in pretty much every single local shop in that area.
Oh.
So they came to us and said, "Oh, we've seen that you're quite prominent in the area. Would you like to be part of the project?" And I said, "Okay, cool. Let's do it." And yeah, went to go and sit down in their fancy office in Buckingham Palace Road. And it was interesting. I brought my parents along to also see.
Yeah.
I wanted them to see how trying to move to the next level will be, what conversations will look like at that capacity, how to operate in a corporate field as well. I learned this also from being in music.
Yeah.
From going to go, maybe walking into a label,
Labels and that,
sitting down with A&R, you know, talking to publishers and stuff like that, and they're part of big corporations, so I learned it from that. To do that. So literally it was just a matter of they just basically said, you know exactly how your brand works, you know your audience, you know how to do it. The floor is yours. It's up to you.
Serious.
So we literally started off with like 4 stores. One of them was in Hackney, one was in Wembley, one was in Kensington, and one was in Watford. And it was just literally, they just gave us the free reign to go in there. We, in Hackney store, we actually outperformed Hovis.
Serious.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Hovis is like, what's the American equivalent to Hovis? Wonder Bread? I don't know, but Hovis is like the McDonald's of bread. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They're like prominent in all the supermarkets, and I think what our edge was the fact that we were actually bringing in the stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
So I would even go in there. I would deliver the breads inside there. We would be there. We would do sampling. We would get people taste the product.
Oh.
So people were getting a chance to meet who was behind the brand and get a feel and have a chat with us. Then like some of the Tesco execs would come into the store to come and see how the project was going on, and they would see, oh, you know, this is like your 3rd delivery this week.
What do you mean by 3rd delivery this week?
So we only started off with delivering to them once a week.
So they just order 1 delivery, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. And how much would 1 delivery be like?
That could work out to about maybe 300 loaves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it went on to twice a week.
You was delivering 300 loaves twice a week?
Once a week at that time.
And then
twice a week.
So that's 600?
Then it went to 3. Then it went to 3 times a week.
Dope.
Then it went to 2 times a day. So morning and afternoon.
Serious?
Yeah, then it started to, it was getting, the figures was climbing quite a bit. And then I remember when Tesco's basically, they bought the company. This company that we went through to
the
get in
referral
there.
company, yeah.
So they bought the company, and then they went through a big change and a big overhaul, and I think the company went into liquidation or something like that. So we lost the opportunity to be back in there. But the only reason why we lost it was because we didn't have the accreditation.
Oh.
So to be in like the large establishments, you have to have an accreditation, which you can prove your traceability, you can prove your, you know, the standards and meet a certain governing board that comes in to approve you for it. So then that took me back to the drawing board, and I was like, well, we need the accreditation then.
Yeah.
Because the manager of the store was like, you guys need to be back in here. I'm
the
getting
bureaucracy,
so many people asking, why is the brand not back in here? So I went away, and to build towards that accreditation was tough. Like, yeah, I had to learn literally the ins and outs of food. Remember, my background is not food.
Yeah.
So I had to understand, I had to basically get qualifications. I had to understand the system and literally do everything from scratch, even to how we trained our staff. Like, built basically an in-house training platform for our staff. When we have new starters, sit down, watch a video, go through a checklist, give them an induction. All of that was all put into the process, and yeah, it was a task, man. It was a task. Yeah.
So now I think it's important that people know about the growth of the infrastructure, because a man is sitting here right now thinking about and no disrespect to anyone, they're thinking about their favorite rapper, but the favorite rapper is struggling to pay off their advance. You know what I mean? Whereas the bakery next door to you is thriving. You know what I mean? You've got two factories, and so I think it's important to people to understand the different dynamics of how you're operating. And I love the fact that like you made it into operation. You know what I mean? I feel like so often, especially in the Ghanaian community, us man are just like, if it's broke, not fix it. That's the culture of our country, isn't it? If it's not, like, do you know what I'm saying? What is your team like? So first of all, what's your team like? Is it Ghanaian bakers, or because I've seen a couple like European people in there? And what's the size of your team?
Do you know what? One of the and I also learned this from my mum. Like when we hire people, we hire for attitude, not experience. So
okay, that's interesting.
You can teach them how to do it, but if the attitude is not there, then that's just gonna ruin what you've got in place. And the saying that one bad fruit will just ruin the bunch. So even when I was getting fully involved and I'd seen how the team was, I pretty much fired 80% of the work.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What? Just like.
Yeah.
Was that because them like? Give me an example of what you looked for in a bad employee.
Like bringing in a new system. Sometimes people are going to be very apprehensive about how they work with it. So for me, it was like, well, this is the system now. This is how the company's running. So if you want to work with us, you have to adhere to this system. But people were so stuck in a certain way that they didn't want to change. And it was literally an ultimatum. And there was people that had been there for like 15 years working with the business, and like they had to go. And and it wasn't in a malicious way of doing it, but it was almost like because they had seen me grow up as a kid.
Yeah. So you're a little boy to them. Yeah.
And they're then they'll go to our parents like, oh, like, who does Sam think he is to come in and do this?
Yeah.
And then I would say, well, this is what's happening. My parents don't have a say. It's my say and how things go. And I think I displayed to my parents that for me, it was like, if I'm taking control and wanting to really build and do this, I have to be wholeheartedly, like, fully believe that I'm going to do it to that capacity, and listen to my gut and listen to my instinct and really kind of go for it. And even with my parents, if they had a idea of how they may see things, even override that. And but it was very difficult.
Because you're firing your aunties and uncles technically, like. I mean, if you grew up with them, they're your uncles, you know.
African culture way. You would say it in that kind of way, but for me, it was like it's a business, first and foremost, and we're here to operate it and run it like how a business should be run. So this is the way that it has to run. And yeah, even with my dad, like there was points where I told him, like, if you are not up to date with this, do not come in. Like, and it was not me, like, again, it was not me being like awkward or anything like that. It was just because we all have to be on the same page. Because the moment, especially from the top going down, if people see a sign of weakness that we don't understand or see how the business runs in a certain capacity, they just take advantage. And my learning process was to understand every single area of the business. So I've been on deliveries. I've gone out and driven to South and driven to the shops and distributed. I've been there and baked the actual products. I've been there and done the recipe from scratch and done that also. I've served in the shop. So I've understood every single area of the business and understand how it should run to the best of its ability, and also discussing with the staff how they think and how to better their kind of journey with it as well. So yeah, it was a big overhaul and learning process, but what it taught me is that resilience will take you through anything you put your mind to.
Nah, real talk. I hear what you're saying. I remember my barber, he had brain surgery, so he had like a 2 minutes, and as a result of that, he was like, he's got 4 daughters, and he was like, I want to spend more time with my children, so I want to implement a like sign-in system in the barbershop, innit? And he was like, okay, I'm going to do that for my customers. But then the other barber was like, I'm not doing that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what you found happened was that no one would stick to the sign-in system because the other barber was like, I just want to keep it. You come in and do you understand? And because the culture of the shop didn't change, he couldn't implement this system, you know, and it was sad for me to see, because obviously I understood where the guy was coming from, you know what I mean? But
we had something similar, you know, actually, with the signing thing. Signing
oh,
system.
serious? What was that?
It was just like literally people had to sign in order to say the hours that they were working in terms of monitoring.
Yeah.
People didn't want to sign in. So I said, if at the end of the week the paper's not signed, or you haven't signed in on a digital device to say that you've worked this hour, you're not getting paid. Yeah. It's like you have to be not cutthroat, but you have to be very strict with how you're going to put procedures in place. Otherwise, what will happen is that you end up going back on your word. You would end up like, one thing is okay for this person, but not okay for that person, and that creates like conflict between staff members and stuff like that. And oh, you favor this person more than this one, and all this kind of stuff. Is just like one common law for everyone, and this is how it runs. Not even I'm exempt. I can't even walk into the factory without the right uniform on.
Yeah.
I expect them to say to me, get out.
Yeah.
And I sometimes test them on it. I'll walk in there and they're like, Sam, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, go and get you in your hairnet. Go and put on this. I'm like, okay, cool. I just wanted to see that you guys, your eyes are open in these kind of things. Because if I'm not there, I expect that for everybody.
Yeah.
And it took time to get into that. So yeah, to put a system in place and for everyone to be on board with that system.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. I think a lot of business people struggle with that, because like you said, people are individuals, and realistically, sometimes you may favour one person more than another, you know what I mean? But you can't let that preference shine through.
Yeah.
So you talked about how you kind of uphold the whole thing, like, physically. So let's talk about, like, because I know if you're coming from music, we're talking about marketing and social media. How did you guys start reaching new customers? You know what I mean? What was your kind of strategy in that?
It was just basically sharing the story and the experience. A lot of the current customers were like the older generation, and they obviously had kids. So their kids, when they know about the product, to them is nostalgia.
Yeah.
So it was, and using things like social media, where our generation knows, you know, social media every day, it's linking all of that together. So it was linking the older generation to, you know, this is the story, this is what we are still here, we are still producing to this capacity, these are the products that we do, this is the memory of giving you that, you know, home away from home experience, and being in touch with Africa. And then new customers, especially in the UK, especially London as well, where it's so diverse. Everyone wants to try something new. Everyone is on the next new thing and stuff like that. So, you know, it's presenting it like we are giving you a taste of Africa. So it was just translating that through imagery, having good quality imagery on our website, having good quality imagery on our social media platforms. Also, just making sure the store was very inviting. So when people come into the store, you get a feel of the products that are there. You get a feel of the environment. It's changed a lot
over the years. Yeah, 100.
And you know, having all of that in place meant it just attracted more people, and then publications started coming in, and I remember one of the first ones was with Time Out. They came in, they were doing a feature on like 7 international bakeries, and they picked us as one of them. So we did the feature, and a lot of the time what I tend to do is let people try the products as well. So if you're getting a journalist that comes in and coming to talk to you about your brand and stuff, and they don't know even what it tastes like, then they're not going to really get a chance to feel it. Yeah. So, you know, have a little taste, especially when my mum's there, she will pack your bag for the stuff. Yeah.
No, I was talking to my friend before I came here, and I was like, I'm going to interview like the director of Uncle John's, innit? And he was like, oh yeah, man, you know, his mum, like every time I go there, man, she's bare safe, she gets busy, you know what I'm saying? That was the first thing he said, innit?
Yeah, she's like that mother for everyone.
She'll
make sure you eat well. So yeah, it was just introducing the products to people and just letting them try and taste. And then you know, social media is such a big platform, and I think that's the best way to start engaging with a newer audience also. We only have the one store, so we've got stores that take our stuff, and a lot of stockists, about probably 200 stockists throughout the whole of the UK. So how do we tap into the audience of people that live in these areas is also through digital marketing.
You said there's 200 stockists?
Yeah, that have our products.
Okay, dope.
So it's about basically how do we target people in certain areas? How do we target people in Edinburgh that have a store close to them that they can get our products, but they have seen us on social media. So then it was like, because again, I studied media, so I understood, and I like technology. So I understood in terms of having a website, creating an API system where people can use your maps and then look and see where their nearest store was, and integrating that so people can then go and as soon as they see an ad pop up, oh, you can get it from here. And it was just doing that and sharing the journey alongside it as well, and sharing the imagery and a bit of the behind the scenes and stuff like that.
So we were touching on that as well, like you said, like this nostalgia and letting people know it's taste in Africa. Yeah, how was it? You have your main customer base is Ghanaians. Like, I'm not main customer base Ghanaians, but you started with Ghanaians, African products. You're based in West Green Road. Yeah, there's a big argument that you can't make money off the black community or in the black neighborhoods. You know, we see the like hair shops owned by like Asians. You know, and this is no disrespect to anyone. We see the food shops owned by like the butchers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think your secret to thriving within the black community and starting out by having the black community as a base?
I wouldn't even say it's a secret. I think it's just maintain good quality and good customer service.
Yeah.
Because when you go to a shop or when you go somewhere, you expect to be treated fairly and equally. And I feel like sometimes, especially before, you would go into a shop and you would feel like you're not really getting the service that you deserve.
Yeah.
You're partnered with your money to pay for something, and it's almost like they're doing you a favor.
Yeah, that's real talk. Yeah,
I mean?
But I'm not gonna name any places, but I hear what you're saying, bro.
So that experience of growing up and experiencing that for me was like, we're not standing for that, and that's not gonna run. So even down to like, I know a lot of the time, even my dad will spend time on West Green Road and people come and see him, and then they'll be in the shop and there's talking and there's this and this, and I'm like, you have to take that somewhere else.
yeah, that's not.
We want customers to come in and feel like they're experiencing the store in its fullest capacity, have a chance to actually look at the products, have a chance to engage with the staff that are behind the till to educate them a bit more about the products also. So it's shifting all of that is what is very, very important. I would say that is one of the best secrets, and being consistent.
Yeah.
Not one day you've got this product, then the next day you don't have this product. Then do you know what I mean? It's like be consistent. And yeah, for us there was a lot of changes. Like we started to add more product range, and it was like, okay, we have to stop somewhere, focus on the core, and build that to a larger capacity before we start introducing other stuff. Because then what you do, you just lose traction of how you're going to focus on the products. We have now around about 18 to 20 different products that we do. So to market each individual product is like
it's a mission on its own.
So it's just maintaining good quality, good communication, and consistency.
Nah, I hear what you're saying. Like I think one of the key examples for black business is like the barbershops, isn't it? And consistency in the barbershop is non-existent. Like, you know, we queue up outside there one time. Some days he doesn't turn up at all. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, you wait 2 hours and a man walks in and says, so I hear what you're saying, and I feel like that is a big factor. I want to talk about the bakery industry as well, because I was researching. It's worth it's one of the largest food industries, worth 3.1 billion. Like, so let's talk about like margins and pricing, like baking products. Like what's the, because I want to know if someone wants to start a bakery, what are we looking like for the cost per loaf of bread to sell it, you know? And
I mean, it's like your raw ingredient, which is like flour, for instance. You're going to get a certain level, a certain bag, which is either 16 kg or 25 kg. From that, you can make a good amount of product from it. I think really and truly, it's all about how you brand the company that you put behind the ingredients you get. Like these days, we've got these bespoke kind of bakeries that do sourdough and all of these kind of things, where some people are paying £5 to £8 for a loaf of bread, and it's tiny.
I've seen it. I walk past them all the time.
It's small, but they do it in a way where they kind of give you an insight to how important it is for you to have in your life. And then people will pay for it. And I think it's the same method that works across so many different businesses. It's the same model that works. We all wear trainers, we all wear clothes. they do all the same thing. But someone would go and spend £900 on a pair of trainers, and someone will go and spend £100 on a pair of trainers or £50 on a pair of trainers. What's really the difference? It's just the name.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to, you know, doing the ingredients and doing the bakery on a whole and looking at margins, it's looking at your audience and who you're going to be marketing that product to.
Yeah.
And for us, and for when the business started, it was marketed to, you know, the first generation that came over to the UK to try and, you know, build their lives up and build their lives for their children and stuff like that. So there wasn't a lot of money in households. There wasn't really much capital flowing around.
Yeah.
So you have to price it, which is like fair for that kind of demographic. But over time, you know, spending power changes, and you then can introduce newer products that targets a different audience because you've built your brand to a certain capacity. So that's how I kind of look at in terms of like margin and having that right kind of flow here and there.
Yeah, no, that's the sense I kind of get. I get the sense of like, it's kind of like how you position yourself, because I don't know how much it costs to make a loaf of bread, but I know there's certain ones that I'll spend my money on, and there's certain ones, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm not a bread person, so I come because I like African bread, you know what I mean? So I'll eat bread at Uncle John's and stuff, but Hovis and all that, it don't do nothing for me, you know what I mean? Because when I was a kid, I spent time in Ghana, and I like bread, you know what I mean, where it's fluffy, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I took my wife there, she's Nigerian, innit? So they used to rave about this place in South London where they say hardo bread, innit? Yeah. And she was talking. I took her to Uncle John's and she was like, oh, next time you come through, you know that bread you got in Seven Sisters?
Make sure you bring some.
Yeah, bro. So it's real, man.
Yeah.
I want to, before we start wrapping up, I want to kind of talk about, like, you being in the space you're in, and like you said, there's vegan bread, sour. Has everyone tried to push you out of the market, or has it got the competition? Like, how do you manage that?
I mean, there's competitors. It's like, but I think competition is good. Having options is good. But I think for us, I always just kind of focus on, I'm aware of what's going on, but I always try and focus on how can we make ourselves the best version of ourselves and what we do. And it's always just by listening to the customers. And that's how you tend to grow, and how you innovate is looking at trends as well. Yeah. So looking at the trends in the market and seeing how you can innovate off that. So for me, it was, I don't really focus too much on outside noise. It's more about the business structure and how we can move with the times and how we can move with the trends. So part of our innovation has been now moving to nationwide deliveries. So instead of it being now from business to business, it's now from B2C, which is the business to consumer. Oh. So people can now go on our website, order online, and they can make their order and they would receive it the next day.
No way, bro. You should have told me this before. Seriously. Yeah. Because I live in Kent right now, so I'm struggling, bro. Yeah. So that... Oh, because we just order off the website.
And then you pick a customized box. You've got two options. You can either pick a signature box or you can pick a customized box. Select what products you want to go inside the box. It's all packaged together and you receive it the next day.
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
No, and so you've gone from artist to entrepreneur, and you won. I've actually got it in my notes. I think it's important to message. You won the Entrepreneur Rising Star Black British Business Award.
I was a finalist.
Oh, you didn't win it?
I didn't win it, no. But I was close though.
Okay, now who won it?
It was a girl called Jamelia Donaldson. She's got a company called Treasure Chest.
Oh, I know what it is. They send out like care packages.
Yeah, for hair.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. So she, like, you know, kudos to her and everything like that. But yeah, just being on that platform and being acknowledged to that capacity by investment banks and you know, these massive companies was just like, whoa.
That's what I wanted to get at. How did you feel like I've arrived? You know, because as an artist, this is where you're waiting for the Grammys, you're waiting for this. Did that feel like, okay, now I'm, you know, this is the new stage of who I am.
Do you know what? For me, I'm quite introverted, yeah. So when it comes to being out and stuff like that, it's mad because obviously I used to do music. So it's like, how can you be introverted? But it's like, I'm very tunnel vision. Yeah. So when these things come, I don't really think about it too much. But then when I'm there, I'm like, okay.
It's things off it,
Do you know what I mean? And for me, it's also like sharing the journey, especially with my mum as well. Like, she's been like the rock behind me and my growth. Yeah. So me bringing her along to the awards and her actually seeing and the acknowledgement and people then speaking to her and be like, oh yeah, we've seen your son do this, and that joy that she gets from it. Even when I took her to, so I was invited to 10 Downing Street to go and do this business leaders reception.
Dope.
And I brought her along. We had our own stall inside there.
You speak tree.
I understand it, but
when they were kuno cry, so once you take away kuno, you imagine she was crying and everything.
Yeah, she was just like, she stood there. She was like, just like looking around, and we were one of the last people to pack up and leave because we actually catered for the event also alongside sampling and stuff there.
Dope.
And in that whole reception, I was honoured by the Chancellor at the time. So he came over, he said a speech, and he was mentioning, you know, he's seen about what I've been doing and this, and he came over to our stand and he went over to my mum and he was speaking to my mum and he was like, I really like this, and you know what, in terms of, you know, inclusion within society and how we're trying to build things now, you know, you guys are on the right path and we want to try and support that as much as possible. And at the end, when the room was just empty, my mum just sat back in the chair and she was just like, just looking around and just like it was. I think it really hit her that, you know, my parents, they came from like hard beginnings. You know what I mean? They came to the country, they didn't have anything, and my upbringing was, you know, it was not easy. Even when I was younger, my dad got deported and had to be sent back and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was like, it was not an easy time. My mum had to really try to, you know, she was doing her thing. She was grafting and facilitating the family whilst my dad was also trying to do the business as well at the same time. So it was tough. So for them to see all of these things that's happening now, it brings them a lot of kind of like joy and peace as well.
Nah, bro, I feel it, bro. Like, I even get goosebumps because sometimes we forget how much that means to that generation. You know what I mean? Because like you said, Downing Street, to them, it's like the White House to us. It's inaccessible. Do you know what I'm saying? There was no way she imagined coming from Ghana that's where all her hard work will take her. You know what I mean? So I totally feel that, man. No, congrats, man. I think that's one of the most like fulfilling things as a young person, being able to put your parents in positions, not just like financially, but like emotionally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you can't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't trade that for anything. I think their kind of vision was that, you know, they want their children to do well. They want their children to be something, and for them to see what, you know, being able to do, and even my siblings, you know, they get involved from time to time. They also do their own thing as well. But for them to see what, you know, this has now become, it's just like, yeah, it's just
mogul business, bro. I respect it, man. I respect it. It's just a start, man. What's your relationship like with Ghana now then? Are you guys thinking about Ghana? Are you guys thinking about franchising? Is it, or is it not?
Yeah, it's been on the cards. We've had conversations and they want us to come over there to kind of set up and do stuff. But for me, Ghana is like a whole different ball game. I have to be there to see and make sure that it's at the level it needs to be. It's
like building a house in Africa. You're not just sending the money over. Bro, you're done.
You come back to just all your materials just there and nothing. Like, you can't do that. Yeah. You can't do that. But yeah, it's definitely something that's been on the cards, and we've had conversations, and things are, you know, conversations have been flying about. But yeah, it's everything has its time. And for me as well, just like, it's not just the bakery that I do. I've got other businesses that I do. I don't really talk about.
I was literally about to ask other ventures. Yeah.
So it's my time is also very limited as well. So I try and divide that as much as possible. Yeah. But if the opportunity arises, then, you know.
No, it needs to happen. But at the moment, you're thriving, bro. And this is the thing: exporting the business.
Yeah.
Just as we're gonna get to, I want to ask you about the other ventures. Just because I saw you lot sponsor a youth team in Haringey, like a football team. You've done that stuff. What other ventures do you have going on at the moment, just to like generate revenue as an entrepreneur? And
so I've got a company that basically does it's kind of like digital marketing and awareness for like smaller companies and smaller businesses that don't know how to scale to that kind of platform. And also like training on health and hygiene and safety and stuff. So that's like a company that it's more of a worldwide kind of thing, because I can put it on a platform, people can kind of like log in and then find out the information they need to do and then learn stuff and then go away, and then we can monitor on analytics and stuff like that and go from there. And then also I've got a wine company that we basically import into Ghana, and also looking to start in Europe as well. So that's building up at the moment as well. Yeah.
Oh, cool, man. So it's just the start of the journey, man.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
Sam,
I mean, there's grey hair coming in. So.
bro, don't worry, man. That's the wealth. That's the wealth manifesting, man.
Yeah.
Since it's 7 figures, we got actually the 7-figure question. So, before we wrap up, how did it feel when you saw your first 7 figures?
Is this how much I've got to pay in tax?
The tax is a killer, boy.
That's what it feels like. But I think it's not. It's for me. It's not about the money. Like the money. Money comes and goes. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people think, like if you make this amount of money, then you are rich. Like you have to reinvest. You have to put money back in order to kind of grow and to see a wider vision. So for me, it's never really about equating to a certain amount of wealth, because I think wealth is pretty much endless. When it comes to money, the figure can be infinite. So it's just more about fulfilling purpose, fulfilling legacy, fulfilling a stamp within what I believe in wholly. Yeah.
Dope, man. No, Sam, thank you very much, bro. It's been a pleasure. Anybody that hasn't tried Uncle John's Bakery, I guarantee you will not be disappointed. The website, the Uncle John's Bakery, right?
Yeah.
The Uncle John Bakery, they now deliver all over what parts?
The whole of UK.
Oh, the whole of UK. So I'm be ordering some tonight. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm not gonna lie to you, especially during the lockdown. Anybody that loved what they heard, please check out 7 Figures Business Podcast on Spotify, on Apple, and most importantly, the video version will be on YouTube. Thank you. Subscribe, like, share, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it.